get something taken care of. But I could tell she was really nervous, like, okay, I've got to be here, but I've got to time this right. And she ended up having plenty of time. It took me, I would guess, like an hour and a half from the time we were, I don't know, maybe it was 2 hours. It's all a blur, and it all happened very fast, so I don't recall it taking, you know, by any means a couple of hours, but I think that it did, to get those couple of more centimeters. My doctor broke my water at some point. It's all a haze. She broke my water. She asked me if it was cool, and I was like, yeah. I looked at the doula like, what do you think? And she was like, it's whatever you want. And I figured I was so close to the end that it would be fine. Up until that point, I was just hurting so bad, and I didn't even feel like I could get up out of the bed, but I felt like I needed to be in different positions, so I would lay back and I would sit up, and I would lay back and sit up. And when the doctor broke my water, like, it just kind of trickled. Nothing happened, and she was kind of surprised, I guess, because usually when they when they go in and break it with the amni hook, usually you get a nice big gush, but it didn't gush. So she was like, are you sure you haven't been leaking your water? And I was like, no, I'm positive, because everybody had been asking me, are you sure you're not leaking water? Are you sure it's your mucus plug? No, it's not my water. It's not coming out. It's not water. Sorry, it's really gross. But anyway, so my water didn't immediately like gush, but after a while from leaning back and sitting up and whatnot, it finally gushed. And also, keep in mind during this time, I'm still kind of in that transition phase, and I start getting the shakes. Like, my whole body was just trembling. I couldn't control it, and it was hurting. And I remember at one point, I don't know what my doula said, something to the effect of, what do you feel like would help right now? Do you want to try something else? I don't remember what she said, but she said something to that effect, and I said, I just want to cry. Like, at that point, it was just hurting. I knew I was so close, but it hurt, and I told her, I just want to cry. Sorry, and she was like, it is fine. Like, that's what I needed to hear, was it was okay, because it was hard. And so I just kind of sat there and sobbed for a few minutes, and then I stopped crying, and then I was angry. I was mad. I was mad at my contractions. I wasn't mad about being in labor. I was just mad at the pain. And my doula was like, well, at some point, this was sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Downstairs when we were still in the lobby, my doula had said, you know, some women will have a focal point. If you want, we can get a focal point, and we can put your pain there. And the immediate thought, I didn't even have like a physical focal point. Immediately my thoughts went to, this is really crazy, but my thoughts immediately went to a YouTube video that Candid Mommy made, where she shared her focal point. It was like a little heart pendant, iridescent heart. And I remember her talking about how all her pain, that's where she put it. And so for a long time while I was downstairs, I had Candid Mommy's focal point in my mind, and that's where I was putting my pain. And so anyway, back to the labor and delivery. We were upstairs. I had cried, and then I had gotten angry, and then I had remembered, okay, I need to put this pain somewhere, because now I'm getting mad. So I made myself keep visualizing that pendant, and I kept putting pain there. And then my doula was like, you know, push this pain to your cervix. Push it to your cervix. Not like push a baby out, but visualize that's where your contraction is going. Visualize it going there and making it open, and this baby coming out. And so we started doing that, and at some point a nurse came and checked me, and I was 9 centimeters and 85% effaced. And then at some point they came and checked again, and I was complete, and meaning 10 centimeters and just ready to go. And my doctor came in, and They broke down the bed and they put my feet up in the stirrups, which I wasn't entirely comfortable. I raised up the seat as much as I could, or the bed, but I think ideally if I could have gotten into like a squatting kind of position, I think I probably would have preferred pushing that way. But at that point I felt like I couldn't move. Like it was, okay, I'm in this position and I want to get this baby out and this is it. The whole time my doula was like rubbing my head and talking to me and, you know, just giving me instructions on pushing it to my cervix and slow and low. Like she kept saying that so that I would take slow breaths and keep my voice kind of low and push the pain down low. And I don't know, it just kind of gets your frame of mind a little clearer. Up until pushing, probably, if I had to guess, I would say the last 30 minutes were a little bit less intense. It was kind of like the transition part tapered off and my body was gearing up to go ahead for the pushing phase. And the contractions were still intense, but not quite as intense, and they weren't on top of each other like they had been before. So anyway, they broke down the bed. I got my feet up in stirrups. My mother-in-law and Micah were kind of out in front of me, and I had a nurse on one side and my doula on the other, which I always envisioned like my people like right next to me, which of course my doula was, but Micah was out in front of me, which worked out perfect because he did video. He did it with our Nikon, which is our still picture camera, but it has a video feature on it, and so as long as they weren't snapping pictures, they were just holding the camera like they were waiting and ready for the baby to come out, nobody knew that we were videoing the birth. So we got a lot of stuff on video. I edited out a lot because I didn't want to scare anybody, because it was like I had temporary like labor-induced Tourette syndrome, because I was kind of I was snippy with nurses, but they understood. Anyway, so it's time to push him out, and I felt him descending down, and I have felt from my other babies the pressure that you feel to push, but I had never felt, it's a different feeling. I could feel the size of him down there. Not that he was by any means this giant baby, but I could feel the size of a human coming out, and it scared me. And I thought to myself, there is no way that I can push this thing out. Like, I was just like, I was screaming. I was like, I can't get him out. I can't get him. And everybody was like, you can, Haley. He's right there. He's right there. He's coming. You're doing it. And I reached down to feel, and I still couldn't feel his head. And they said they could see it, but I couldn't just touch and feel his head. And I was crying. I was like, I can't do it. And they were like, finally, I don't know. I gave it a few more pushes, and then you could start to see his head. And I reached down and I could feel his head, and then that was motivation. And I got excited, and then when his head was out, I screamed out. I was like, my baby, and I was crying. And I was just at that point, I was like excited. Okay, my baby's coming. And then his head was out, and for a moment, I guess, when it was just like his neck, like his head was out and it was just his neck there in my area, like it was kind of a brief moment of relief, and I was excited. My baby was almost out, and then I felt this pressure, and I was like, oh my gosh, these shoulders, and I screamed out, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I pushed a couple of times, and out he slid. Like, I was scared to death at that point, because I could feel these shoulders, and it startled me. And my eyes are like huge in the video. But he came out very quickly, and I didn't tear. It took about six to 10 pushes, if I had to guess. Which with my others, I mean, it was just a couple of pushes and they were out, but I also tore with them, and I had a slight tear with him. The doctor did not stitch it, she said. It was so superficial, it didn't require any stitches. I was very achy. They mash on your cervix and press around, and you know, that hurt, but it was nothing compared to contractions. It was, you know, a relief. And immediately they put him on my chest, which was something that I had asked for. So I had my moment to hold him while they, you know, rubbed him clean. And I mean, he was close to me. He wasn't way down at my belly. You know, he was by my chest, and I got to hold him. And I guess I knew that he would be bloody and slimy and whatnot, but I didn't think about it, I guess, until after he was, like, they let me hold him a while and then moved him. And, I mean, I was just covered in blood. I had blood under my fingernails, but it was so worth it. Micah cut the cord. When he cut the cord, I didn't see it. I think I was holding him at that point and just paying attention to him. And Micah cut the cord, and apparently it shot blood all over him. His mom had to do some stain fighting on his shirt, but Micah did so well through the whole thing and was so encouraging. And then at the very end, when that happened, he had to sit down. Like, that made him feel a little lightheaded and nauseated and whatnot, so he had to sit down after that part. But they went ahead and took him and got him weighed, and he was 7 pounds 8 ounces, which for me, I know that, excuse me, that's not a big baby by any means, but for me, that was a big baby. Connor was 5'15" and a half. He was teeny weeny little, and Colton was 6'11" and McKenna was 6'13". So to have a baby that was more than half a pound to 1.5 pounds bigger than all my others, I was just like, oh my gosh. And that was the one that I, like, didn't even get an epidural on. I was like, I felt proud at that point, like, yes, I did that. And so they got him weighed and kind of cleaned up and everything, and I delivered the placenta, which I was kind of nervous about, but I did feel pressure, and it did kind of feel uncomfortable, but I think by that point everything was so stretched out anyway, it came out very easily. The doctor did start me on Pitocin, which I knew she would, and I was okay with that, you know, to help my uterus go back down to size. That wasn't something I had protested. While I was still in labor, before I had him, they tried to do the hep lock in this hand, and the chick blew my vein. That was the worst. I was so mad that I was hurting on my hand when I had to deal with contractions. Anyway, I had skipped over that part, but they went ahead and got an IV started over here, but they didn't turn the Pitocin on until after he was delivered. So, yeah, didn't need stitches. They got him all fixed up and got him into my arms. We took pictures, and the doctors and the nurses were, you know, they were so proud. They told me how proud they were of me, and, you know, I apologized to the main nurse that was tending to me. I was like, I'm so sorry I was ugly to you. And she was like, oh girl, she was like, I have seen way worse, and it's been from women who had their pain meds. So she was like, you just don't even worry about it. So it was really good. Our hospital stay was pretty good. In the nights, the first night there, they woke us up like a lot, and it was annoying. But the second night, they were a little bit more considerate. He nursed right away very easily. I don't know, everything was great. So I think that's all on my labor and delivery video on the details. Let me know if you have any questions, because I'm sure I left some stuff out, because it's a pretty big eventful day, and some things are hazy, and some things don't, you know, come back to you just immediately. But feel free to ask me any questions you've got. Also, I'll be making a video on kind of my opinion, I guess, on labor with an epidural versus natural childbirth. Just to let y'all know kind of my thoughts on it. I still think epidurals are great. I think natural labor is great, but I'm going to go into more detail on that as soon as I can. Also, I need to do a video for the Trail of Kindness. Lauren, AKOW Larry. I can't remember exactly all her letters, but she tagged me. That was really sweet, so I need to do that tag video. And I'll also do a 1 week postpartum. Today, he's actually a week and a couple of days, but I'm going to do a 1 week postpartum and let y'all know kind of how we're doing now. But I think that's it, and I'll make another video here in a minute.